Okay, so today I'll be talking about how to rearrange and optimize UV maps to get the max resolution out of your map. And what I mean by that is basically utilizing uh, and making the shells have a little bit of space in between them, but not having a lot of space in between them. Here, let me pull up an example of this. So we can see that in the Shogoth texture that it has little negative space or gaps between the shells, which is good. And this is just a good example of what the end product should look like. Because a lot of times, like, you can see that people that rush on UV maps, they're usually their UV maps usually like look like this or something, where it's like it just has just a bunch of negative space in it and stuff, like over here, and it just looks terrible like that. All right, so we can see that the elephant character is cut, and he's ready to go to be automatically unfolded and stuff. So I'm just going to select all of him, and then go to polygons, and I'm just going to hit the unfold button, and that's basically just going to unfold them for me. And Maya does like a really good job, but we can see that. So the first thing I start to do is actually I start clicking on each shell, and I make sure that it's evenly unwrapped and relaxed, and evenly distributed, that every rectangle is actually a rectangle, that nothing is like squeezed out, or because you can kind of see that at the edges that the rectangles are a little deformed and stuff, which is like okay. Like right here, this one's kind of deformed, but that's okay because it's on the edge, you know. And these all look pretty good. Come on. They're all separated. They all look pretty good. So we can see that basically we only have one that really messed up. Oh, besides we have two that messed up. And usually, if one or two mess up, it's usually because they're not. We didn't slice them correctly over here. That we didn't do a full slice along the seam. The seam. We didn't fully connected the seam all the way around. So basically, what I'm going to do is just separate this from it. Just pull it out. I'm going to pull this one out too, because it looks pretty bad. I'm going to look at these two. Look at these. Yep. All right. And I'm basically going to manually cut this in half, because we can see that when I select it that I'm selecting his head and I'm selecting his ear, which that's not supposed to happen. So what I'm going to do is select the slice tool up here, and I'm going to just slice it right here by just double clicking this right here, and we can see that the inputs are going off as I'm doing that, and then I slice it right here too. You can kind of see it separate as you slice it. So I'm just going to play around with it and go into faces. I'm going to start just pulling these faces apart. So we can see that there was a face on top of a face as I did that. Let me redo that. So let me pull this off again, and we can see that there was a face underneath this face. So I'm just basically going to select this under here, and I'm going to start just keep pulling it apart. So we can see that to connect this seam right here, I have to slice this this edge right here to connect this to have one connective edge loop, or edge loop seam. Spleen. No. All right. So I'm basically going to do the slice tool again, and then it's going to automatically slice it for me. And then I'm going to pull this apart a little bit, and we can see that it did the same thing again. And then I'm going to slice it again, and we're going to see, I'm going to go back into shell and see if this is a separate shell, which it is, which that's good. So I'm going to try to fix this one too, right here. And this. So I'm going to go into edges. I'm going to select this one to connect one seam to the other, and then I'm going to slice it. I'm going to go back into shell and see if the shells are separated into two shells, which it did. So basically, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make Maya fill this fill this map right here up automatically. So I'm going to make Maya do it. So I'm going to select everything again, and then I'm going to hit this button right here, which is automatically, layout, UVs, automatically move, blah, 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 you know, whatever that's called. And basically it's going to do it for me again. And it did a really good job of it again, of unwrapping everything. Not relaxed or not flattened all the way. And it says inner ear, you can see over here. So what you want to do is basically go over here, select this shell, and then just have Maya unfold it again for me, which is right here. Hopefully there's like a 50% chance it's going to freak out and not do it correctly. And we can see that it did it. Oh my god. It made it into like a tube. That's great. Oh my god. So I'm just going to Control Z and undo that. And I'm just going to take this out, and I'm going to manually do it by going into vortexes and selecting one at a time in the move tool if I can, and then using my eyes just start unfolding this. I'm going to look and see if everything is scaled proportionally on the map. I'm going to click this button right here, display checkerboard tiles, and we can see in this viewport, and we have to see that if all the checkerboards or all the squares are exactly scaled correctly. And all of them are squares and not rectangles too, because that's very important too. See, this is kind of a rectangle right here. No, they're all kind of squares. That's good. We can kind of see the back of the head. The back of the head is kind of more, it's bigger. The square pattern is bigger on the back of the head, so we're going to click on this over here, and we're just going to maybe scale it up a little bit more, like so. Make it more even. Doesn't have to be perfect. We can see that the neck piece too is very, very big, so we're going to scale it up if it's big, and if it's small, we're going to scale it down. You kind of see this piece is kind of messed up right here too, but there's faces overlapping too, so that's the fun part of UV unwrapping. You just keep finding more things that go wrong. You can kind of see that his belly's kind of too big, so we're going to scale that up. Yeah. Make sure that they're not overlapping. Make sure you give them some space, like so. You can kind of see that these ones are they're overlapping each other right here, so that's cool. We have to go manually fix this by going into vertexes or going into UVs, and that enables you, well, you have to right click and then do UVs, and that enables you to just basically edit the seams, which is basically the blue box or the blue border around this thing, and this will allow me to actually kind of relax this manually and stuff, like so. So right now nothing's really overlapping itself, so that's good. And I'm gonna have maybe Maya unfold this. Let's see if she oh yeah, she behaved herself this time. That's good. Wow. I rearranged them, and I made sure that I got rid of all this negative space here, and I really optimized the shells and made the shells bigger and stuff, and I made sure that none of them are overlapping, but at the same time making sure that there is a little bit of space in between them, making sure that if I would put this into Mudbox or ZBrush, that there would be no bleed in between the shells, and which is bleed is you know, making sure that one brush stroke doesn't go from one shell to the other in one fell swoop. And you want to make sure that all these squares are basically square shape, and none of them are rectangles, and none of them are diamonds either. And you want to make sure that the pattern is an actual pattern across his face or the faces, and the pattern isn't disrupted in the mesh itself or in the texture. And this is all utilized and optimized, and it's ready to be rendered out into a template, which we do polygons, UV snapshot, and then you select where you want to save it, the pixel size, color range, and then the image format. You press OK, and then that's it. All right, thank you, and hopefully